Welcome to the True Metal Podcast. I'm your host Matthew Kessie, and thanks again for joining us for another True Metal Rewind. This week we rewind to our interview with Seregor of Dutch black/horror metal band Carach Angren. This interview was recorded in July of 2019 in Dublin during their summer tour. Seregor is a man that's quite intriguing and interested in many ways, more than one, and during our talk he discusses plenty of things to do with both the band but also his own interests also in mask creation and design, and also his inspiration behind that. Make sure to also stick around to the end of our interview to hear a teaser from our new series MonSTARs of Rock, the LORDI Story, which will be dropping and debuting in July of 2020 on all podcast apps and also on YouTube as well. This week's teaser is of Mr. Lordi and also him talking about the creation of the Lordi sign. But until then, here is Seregor of Carach Angren. And you recently played in Hellfest as well, didn't you?
Yes.
How was that?
That was amazing. It was, I think, for us, one of the best experiences ever.
Really?
Because, it just felt right. Just was a very good response. And personally, for me, sometimes it's a bit difficult to go on a big stage.
Okay.
It's like the sound changes a little bit.
Nice.
And this felt just like perfectly in tune, this show. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos from the actual performance. You had like platforms going up and down and everything like that. It was pretty cool. Like,
yeah, we were lucky. We had our whole production, just the two risers and my microphone stand beside. So that's for us the whole thing actually at this moment. And if we could take that everywhere, it would be nice. But, if we do it here tonight, we'll be ending up in the roof, so it doesn't work.
And like, I guess with that, you get to bring the full concept of what you want the band to be, I guess, on the larger stage.
Oh, you mean like with the equipment?
Yeah.
If we have that possibility, we would love to. Just technical wise, it's not always an option. They weigh a lot, and but if we could make it look like a movie, we would. That's our goal a little bit.
And how has the response been from the fans?
It's amazing. It's I mean, for me, it's sometimes you see a lot of fans just looking and watching, and but I always say to myself, if people are not drinking and having mosh pits, then they want to see your show. So that's pretty important to me. But I have to say, this show was people were just jumping and going crazy. So it's always nice to see that.
It's different for the type of band that Carach Angren is, because you're very sort of a visual band. And very theatrical. As well. So would you get a lot of fans just sitting and watching the performance? Then? Would that be more common than people traditionally like getting the mosh pits and that?
I think the ones who really want to see the show, they just watch. And for me personally, what I think it's most beautiful is I see a lot of people in the audience just with their eyes closed at certain parts of our songs, and they're just enjoying it that way. And I think if there's people who just want to have fun, where they're not really into our band, if they get in and start jumping and having mosh pits and stuff like that, that's a win-win, So
super. And along the tour, has it been, like, obviously Hellfest was a big highlight, but outside of that, has there been any other highlights in like maybe smaller venues?
Actually for us it's like every show is pretty energetic.
Nice.
It's not that I have the feeling like today the crowd didn't came loose or anything, and so I cannot complain. In the past we had more like especially in our own country that people are just standing watching, but we grew quite a lot since that time. So and I have to say, with Full Force was also a festival pretty big, so it was also actually a highlight for us. And it's I can really say like, okay, this indoor show is better than the other one. It's like everyone has its charm, so it's all cool.
Okay. And obviously you and the rest of the band hail from the Netherlands, and how does that scene compare to the rest of Europe? Is there any big difference
from the Netherlands and all these countries? You always see a difference in mentality in the people and a little culture, how so to say, it's That's all actually. I have to say that if it comes to audience and to Carach Angren, I can see pretty much the same fans more or less.
Okay.
You know, but it's like for yesterday, it was the first time we came in Scotland, in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And so it's always new to see the kind of people. And my impression was like, really cool. You have a feeling immediately, really down, easy people, you know. And it's a difference between if you go to Mexico, for example. That's a different culture.
Yeah.
And they are known for going totally crazy, you know. That's. I think. I mean, if you're in music and you have fans and supporters, it's always nice. It doesn't matter in which way they come to you, you know. And today it's Ireland the first time, so let's see how those people are.
Yeah.
Seem very nice.
Yeah.
So,
And obviously, you guys have basically you've been on the road for a long time now.
yeah.
And I guess you've been supporting this album that recently came out for quite a while. And does that interfere then, I guess, and does it become a struggle then after the tour to come up with new music, or with when you're together with the band for long periods of time, does it become easier to write new music?
It depends. It depends. If it's like a big puzzle, you know. If there's nothing, then it's always like, oh shit, what are we gonna do now? You know,
Yeah.
Because you always aim for the highest. If you start with your first album, you get the best. You take the best that you can, and for now it's like we already have some material written, and there are a few songs that we are makes us pretty secure already. So it's not finished yet. We have to do a lot of more writing on concept-wise, and but we're getting more and more strong in that. We know we're gonna come up with something good, but it's like that puzzle is like complete for maybe 70%, something like that. So there's a big piece already that we can say, okay, and we've proven ourselves many times in this, or 5 times already for this thing. So the 6th time will be a new win. But yes, if you sometimes you have with every album, it's like, shit, what I'm gonna do now? You know, we did songs on this album, like for example, the first one we changed it maybe already for 4 times completely, like music-wise, lyric-wise, and I don't think we have ever changed so much about a song.
Nice.
And then later on, other songs come and they add up to the whole concept.
Okay.
And to make it fit all, we had to change that first one again. So
Nice.
that was pretty funny how things turn out. But we're getting more secure in it. Yeah.
And is it tricky then, because all your albums are pretty much concept albums, and they all have like a story running throughout them.
Yeah.
Is that more difficult?
It's more or
just
less you get used to it. It's,
Okay.
I think if you would put us to, if we had to write songs like they normally do, I don't know, give an example. Enough other bands do it. So if, for example, if it had to be about Satanism, and it would be simple, you know, about praising the Dark Lord, and I don't think that would be pretty hard for us. I think to. I mean, all the other bands get good at their stuff, you know. So we're getting good and used to our own stuff. So it's the only way we know, I think.
And obviously, on the outside of the band, you create masks and that sort of thing. You're very into sort of making theatrical things. What inspired you to make them?
Actually, I'm a Halloween fan. It's the horror Halloween, and Rob Zombie came out with his remake, the first one. It was 2007 or 2008.
Like that,
And there's this part after Michael gets big, and he's sitting in jail, and it's 15 years later. And the first scene, they go into a cell, and you see all these masks hanging in his cell, and he's making them paper mache, I think. And I was like, shit, I want that too in my house. So actually, that's how I began with but not with the paper mache. I started with the plaster stripes.
Okay.
And later on, I knew a couple of friends who got further than that with modeling clay, and so just kept going and going. And the first idea for me was the combination, the band combining with the mask. And in our first clip, video clip, from Sighting is Important of Doom, we had these Carach Angren masks hanging there, and so this was the first thing we started doing with it, and it just developed from that. And now I'm making them like for custom orders for people, and I use the crown that I wear on stage. So after a couple of years, you become also handy in that. You become good at that.
And what's the process of making a mask?
I start with with these plaster stripes. First, I did every mask on my face, so it was just like sitting there for 10 minutes and getting it off. I made a lot of them like that, and I stuck to it because I was like, okay, if I make it on my own face, then it's more real. But after a while, you have something like, it goes easier when you make a cast or a mold of it. Nice. You know? So I got a few molds now, and first I start with the plaster stripes, and I recently also use epoxy resin. It's and the stuff they fix holes in both with. In both with. It's pretty strong. And but after the plaster stripes, I start with the modeling clay, with the whole the forms, the structures, horns. But it takes a lot of time, the drying. It's for example, I first put on a few layers, the bones and the eyebrows, stuff like that, and so it has to dry another day. I use the heater a lot for that. If the sun is shining, it's perfect. That's the best drying process for me. And then come the horns, and so it goes like maybe in a week or something. You're working on a mask like that. Okay. It depends how my idea. A lot of times, like, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm not sure what. If there's already a sketch that is obvious, then it's for me it goes pretty quick. But a lot of times, like I'm looking at it and thinking and then comes the idea after a day or something, you know. So that takes also a lot of time, but I take my time on it. It doesn't go that fast. Otherwise, I know I would be unsatisfied and break it down again. So that's how it goes.
Okay, well, sticking with the sort of theatrical part, in MonSTAR's drum set, there's a big gate that runs right through it. What was where did the idea for that come from?
I think we had the idea already a long time ago, the cemetery fence thing, but just use it later on. MonSTAR all of a sudden came up with the idea again, and like, okay, let's do it now. And I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he didn't. There's not a cemetery without a fence at the moment. So it's all he bought it. And funny thing is, it's the real thing. It's like this really heavy iron. It's not like light shit. It's like always when the crew has to drag it in, they're like, "What the hell is this?" You know? It's like fucking heavy. And but it's it's a good thing to keep drum stuff on the ground. You know, it doesn't easily fall over. And MonSTAR did a lot of that himself because there are parts like welded to, and like the cymbals, they're really a part of it. So he did a big job on that.
So good. And obviously you have the keyboard as well. I think MonSTAR designed the keyboard as well that moves around, didn't he?
Yeah. He came up with the technical part. It's Ardek who mostly comes up with these kind of ideas for especially for first keyboard too. And but Ivo is the programmer. He's the mechanical guy of our band. So if you take me, I'm the visual guy, the emotional. Ardek has a little bit of both. He's also good in the business and the context around it. And MonSTAR is really the drum guy, the technical guy. He's and all those three things are a perfect combination.
Okay, very good. And obviously, when you guys are finished this tour, what's going to come next for you?
We're gonna write like hell. Right away. We're already brainstorming now, like how we're gonna finish. So it comes all together now to creating this perfect album, like all the others before, you know. But it's feeling good now with the things we're gonna do now. So. We'll be writing very hard, and apparently after that, right away into the studio, getting it done, and with all the things around it, video clips, etc. So let's make it. The total package has to be more perfect now. Everything on the right time for the magazines and for the media. So. I'm looking forward to the result already.
Very good. And then, is there a release that do you have a set date or a set month that you think I'll be out by then?
For the new album? No, that's not. We're thinking summer, maybe beginning next year, but it's a little bit unclear yet.
Nice.
That's
how the process goes.
That's how the process goes.
Okay, very good. And obviously, is there any, I guess, dream that you want to come true for the band? Some particular thing that you like, whether it's performing with somebody or performing somewhere?
Maybe it would be nice if it grow out to something more, for me, maybe more visual, more to a movie-like thing or something, or a theatric. It's already what we do on stage, but it's more theatric. I was a fan of bands, you know, that's how it began. There was a band, and but we don't want to be just a band playing. You know, we want it to be more, and it could be amazing if we do. Yeah, like complete. Let's say like maybe the sorcery feeling. You know, like magic tricks, stuff like that. You know, that people are really like stunned at what they see. So maybe that's a bit of a goal. Yeah, to I mean. A big thing is what a lot of these bands in the scene do, like a big orchestra. I mean that's a nice thing, but it's not something new. So for me, it's more actually all the dreams have come true for me already. I mean, I just wanted to have a band in the old days, and we're way further now, you know. And once you have that, you want something new. And but it would be amazing to get something like a movie, or that somebody would pick up the concepts that we make and make a movie about that.
Yeah.
So there's already a director who took some things from us, like Pie Wicket, it's called the movie.
Okay.
And, but it's just like the Carach Angren music is played in it, and you see a patch with our logo.
Oh, okay.
So, but not a real concept yet. It's like it would be nice if somebody made a real movie of the stories we have written.
Nice. So very good. And obviously, your metal, I guess, could be defined as horror metal.
Yeah.
But it's also sort of a black metal sense in that. And I guess when you look at the scene of black metal, it's become increasingly more popular.
Yeah.
Last while, like a band like Behemoth, which would have been there would have been a small enough band to originally start out, but now they're performing in like stadiums and everything like that.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a reason why black metal is becoming so popular?
I'm not sure. I think it's the way of how you work with things. If you want to promote yourself, I mean, they say of black metal was underground and dark and not meant to be commercial and stuff like that. But actually, that went the other way around. When people started hearing of this dark music it became popular back in the 80s, 90s. But bands like Behemoth, they just they take it big. They do big promotions. They have a big production, and it's always also this battle about keyboards and stuff. And what is true and what is untrue. You know, we let that go after a while. You know, if we call ourselves black metal, that wouldn't be. That's not true anymore. We do so many things from our own way, you know. And
you don't want to be restricted in a sense.
Yeah, we don't want to be restricted. It feels like being in a cage. And if we would stick to the black metal, true black metal, whatever you call it, then we would be walking in other people's footsteps again.
Yeah.
So we just want to do our own thing, and it's always risky. And a part of all the people never agree with that, but that's how it works. You know, you always lose a couple and you gain some more, and. So we try to do our own thing at a certain point, and but it is for me, black metal, death metal, especially it's both actually for me. They are always the best music styles to express. There's no other music for me that where I could express that much, like hatred, darkness, however you call it, and. But it's amazing to do your own thing in that and get that big. It's like all these bands are doing, like Behemoth, even like Marduk, Dark Funeral. These bands were pretty underground, but now everyone knows them actually. You know, so we want to do our thing and let's get it bigger. I mean, who doesn't want to do it? You know.
Yeah. And which bands have influenced you from your youth to racing and all that? This bands.
There were a lot of bands. I think. In the old days, it started for me with like D-side Cannibal Corpse, and actually later I got more into the melodic black metal like Dimmu Borgir, Cradle of Filth, and after that these bands got me more into the darker stuff like Mayhem, Dark Funeral, Marduk. There's Mork Greening, if I say it right. It was a two-man's project, more not so famous things, but for me they were very important. Emperor is for me a very great band. They have an amazing style. It always will be for me, and so it's for me it's these death and black metal bands that got me into what I'm doing now.
And what do you think of Dimmu Borgir's recent music?
What do I think about the new stuff? Maybe it's also because we're getting older. It doesn't have the impact anymore as it used to have. I mean, if you listen to the production these days, it all sounds better than the sound, you know, if you listen to the old stuff. But but I'm not that impressed anymore as I was back then. Yeah. Some things are for me are cool, but other things I would say I would do different if I was them. But that's why I'm me, and that's why I'm in Carach Angren doing my thing, of course. And it's like if you listen to you can listen to all this stuff, but that first album that made the biggest impression on you, it's still it always.
How much album would that have been?
Oh, for me, I think. Which albums? I think for me, a Dog Funeral album, Secrets of the Black Arts is an important one for me. If it comes to Marduk, what was the one with the orcs again on it? Heaven Shall Burn When We Are Gathered. Okay. Also the first Cradle albums. The Principle of Evil Made Flesh was a good one. Dark Fairy Tales in Palestine. Darkness Enthroned Triumphant from Dima Borga. This was pretty much our time. So.
And where do you see the band now in 5 years' time? Is there any set point that you'd like to see the band?
It's pretty unknown yet. It's always hard to. I get this question a lot, and it's always hard to answer. Like, I don't know. We'll just. For example, now we're doing a lot of stuff with the horror and dolls, with the visual part, and it always turns out to be something unexpected. It's like. At this moment, I'm cutting the doll's neck, and now we're getting like girls on stage and kissing them and let the blood flow over their faces and stuff like that. So we always it's like feeling a little bit what's going to happen, how the audience reacts, and you watch. I mean, you can do what you like, only what you like, but if the whole audience doesn't agree, it's 50-50. It's we look at them, we look at us, and I mean, you shouldn't change for the audience and. It's a bit both ways. It's a balanced thing that you try to keep. You go along with the flow.
And also, when you're on stage, you cut out your tongue as well. Like, What's the reaction always like to that from fans? Like, especially up the front row to that.
Yeah, that was a funny thing. We did that for the first time. So we got these tongues, and I put this blood in my mouth, and then started cutting off the tongue. Yeah. And the thing, this is one of those examples. I just wanted to cut it off and just throw it in the audience. But now I found myself like above this girl standing like and I started cutting, and then the blood fell over her face, and I just improvised, let it, and she didn't run away. She just was like, I love it, and I cut off the tongue and just stick it in her mouth, and she loved it. So from that moment we kept doing that, and there was a certain part that we were out of tongues, so we just switched to cutting the doll, licking up the blood, and then I went to some girl in the front row, like a kiss like this, and then at the moment when she kissed me, I let the blood come out with my real tongue. So that's how things can change.
Has there been any negative reactions to that, like people going, "Oh God, I don't want that"?
Not at all. I think only for the doll, maybe there and now is a reaction from like female organizations who are like, "What the hell is this?"
Okay.
There are also some fans like who say like, "Okay, this is too B horror," But that's okay. That's how it works. And personally, myself, I think I shouldn't push that too hard. But it's horror metal, and it's a doll, and it's about this whole visual thing. There's a white body, and then you cut it, and it starts bleeding, and it has a certain effect, But I like to provoke. I mean, if people are like, "Oh, you can do this," well, bad publicity is good publicity, And also in that, you have to keep your balance, So. But some people are like, people who are getting like furiated about this kind of stuff. They take it too personally. I mean, if I really want to do it right, then I get a real person on there acting the real thing. I mean, cannot kill a real person and I go to jail. But now it's just a doll, And if you don't like it, then go watch something else, So, but we like to play with that little provocation thing.
And also you're talking about organisations there and everything. Back a couple of years ago in the Netherlands, you performed on Christmas Eve, I think it was. Yeah. And you had a lot, like news and everything was covering the event because it was, I guess, there was a lot of people offended by the fact that your gig was going on Christmas Eve. How did that come about? Like,
that was perfect. That was that was also one of these things that you need this, and it's a win-win in this kind of music. And we played on Christmas Eve, and it was a Christian organization that run that town a little bit, and they got mad because of this, and but the whole audience, everyone was like with us, and the more they tried to stop it, the more publicity we gained, and so yeah, it worked out. So the same venue booked us like for 3 years in a row, something like that, in the same venue. So yeah, that's the thing you want, you know. I mean, you don't want people to get hurt and stuff, but they are talking like they cannot play because this is demonic witchery, and they make us real. That's perfect. Yeah. That's exactly what we need.
Adds to your theatrical element.
Yeah. They are part of our show now, and at a certain point, I think they realized, and then they were like, okay, let's just shut up.
Just let you play.
Just let them do the thing, and sometimes we are waiting for stuff like that, you know. That's how it works in this kind of music.
Okay, and obviously your band name comes from a Tolkien reference.
Mm-hmm.
And are you a big Lord of the Rings fan or Hobbit fan, or was it just before the band name?
Yeah, I remember I always, I mean, there were more bands choosing this. I mean, if Gorgoroth, for example, and if you start, I read the book before the movies, way before the movies, and it's just a perfect balance between good and evil, and the way how this guy described the whole evil, the Dark Land, Mordor, and it's just amazing. I remember myself going through the pages, skipping all the elf shit and all the Hobbit stuff, just only the dark stuff about the orcs, and later the movies came out, and I remember I was like, nah, it's not really as good as the books, but this is real. Your imagination is always better than the movies. So after a couple of years, I'm still watching them. I'm still sometimes making my mask, and I just have them rolling, and they're just they're brilliant movies, you know. And it's not that I'm a real fan of it, but we actually only Carach Angren and my name Seregor are the only two things taken from that time.
Nice.
And the name Seregor, I have it since I was like 18 years old or something. It's Sarek means blood, and Gor is abhorrence, and I just combined them.
Okay.
So, maybe I'm a little bit of a fan of them. Maybe.
Very good. And is there anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Keep supporting Carach Angren and worship horror.
That was Seregor of Carach Angren. Please make sure to check out Carach Angren's new album, Frankensteinia Strata Monatus, which is out on Season of Mist Records on May 29th. Now on to a guy who is quite similar to Seregor, and that is of course Mr. Lordi. And here is a teaser of my conversation with Mr. Lordi about the design of the LORDI sign and symbol, which comes straight from our new series MonSTARs of Rock, the LORDI Story, out in July of 2020.
This must have been 97, 98, 96, something like that.
Okay.
And I'm living in my small one-room flat, which was 17 square meters, tiny as fuck, and but I had my fucking all my Kiss collection at the time there with the pinball machine and everything. I had everything there, so it was like a small fucking cube of filled with stuff and myself, and and underneath under my bed was like on a balcony there,
right, and
under the balcony there was this little workspace that I did all the makeup stuff and did the first costumes right there, in an area that is like less than 2 square meters. This is like tiny fucking place. And I actually remember vividly that the mask was there on the table, and when I was, and my LORDI costume, the first version of it was already like probably half done, or most of it was done, and I started drawing something on the back of the cape, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna just do like a visual, like a more stylized version of my mask, and that's how the LORDI symbol came about. So so the painted logo of the LORDI symbol on the back of the cape on Get Heavy and Monster Can Dream. That is the original drawing of it. It's that, and I have used that in graphics. Like even on the new tour graphics, I still use the same fucking. It's that, and then the different versions and the more simplified versions of that, later on. But that mask is actually the LORDI symbol, or the other way around. The LORDI symbol is actually that first mask. If you start thinking about it, it actually has the horns. I mean, that first LORDI mask, it had, all the horns on the side. So I had that many horns there.
Right. Okay.
And you can actually see where the beard would be, where my mouth and beard would be, and the nose and everything. So that is basically like a stylized version of that LORDI mask. Right. There is a picture of that mask. I mean, that actual physical mask. I think in me on LORDI book, there it is. There is a picture of that.
Okay. Right.
And but now coming back to the actual thinking of or the idea of how the LORDI mask came about. So I never used that, and for some reason, I remember that following summer, I was at my summer cabin.
In a Midwest part of Finland lies a town called Rovaniemi. A town known for the Northern Lights, Santa Claus, the Arctic Circle, and reindeer. But little would people know that during a night in 1992, an 18-year-old boy was asleep, dreaming. He envisioned a skeleton, a ghastly one, on stage, dressed in leather with a top hat, and he was playing guitar to a deafening crowd. This dream would change the boy's life, the way people looked at Rovaniemi, Finland, and also heavy metal as we know it. By creating monsters that played heavy riffs and catchy choruses. A legend was born. Brought to you by True Metal Podcast, a documentary series on Finland's very own monsters, LORDI.
Monster man, could you understand beauty of the beast? Fire at will, yeah.
Featuring interviews with members of the past, such as Kita.
LORDI has been there like 20 years.
Yeah.
So they are already legends.
Exactly.
In every way you look at it, they are legends.
Yeah.
And just do what they do.
Kalma.
Yeah, actually, it was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. That never bothered me at all. Those costumes and makeups and all that. That was part of the plan, and I knew it from the start. And I was so into it back then, and I'm still into it because I still think that LORDI is a great band.
And current members like Eamon.
At some point we realized, and our future manager realized, that guys, keep it simple, and then Get Heavy came out, and I remember that time Magnum was there, and Mr. Lordi and me, and we were like, this is it. Get heavy. That's the song.
Okay.
This is Lordi. This is Lordi. Now it feels good.
And of course, the emphatic Mr. Lordi.
Whoever claims that they heard the Maple Market any of the songs, they are lying, because there's probably, I would say, there's less than 10 cassette copies of existing of that. And I have the master at home, so I know that no one has.
With many more guests from the past, present, and those closely involved with the band. MonSTARs of Rock, the LORDI Story, will delve into the history of a band like never before. A documentary that fans want and that the band deserves. Coming July 2020 on all podcast apps. Follow True Metal Pod on Instagram and Twitter to keep up to date with the production.